Hi everyone, my name is Phyllis and I'm the owner of Mad Moody Quilting Fabrics. Today I thought I'd come on and show you how to do the block that is in this pattern. Now I'll put the link down below. It's not my pattern, so I can't give any measurements or anything. You need to use the mini pineapple trim tool from Creative Grid, okay? And you also need to have the pineapple trim tool 6, 8, and 10-inch one. So you need this one to make the full-size block. Today I'm only going to show you how to make this tiny little center part of the block using the mini one. So let's get started. So I'm just going to take this and put it aside because I don't need that, and I don't need this till the next second part. And today we just are going to work with this and some strips. So the first thing, I'm going to switch over to this. There we go. So the first thing we need to do is cut our center square based on the instructions on the Creative Grid, and then frame it with the white, okay? And the white is round 1. And then we're going to go ahead and trim that up. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to, there is a little tiny square here. Oh yes, you can see it right here. And that square is going to go over the purple square in the block. And that's our first cut. Okay, so we're just going to cut off the excess. Now, I kind of liked making sure that I had everything out for this first round because I want to make sure that this round is perfect. So you're going to put the white square around the purple fabric square. You have a seam allowance there, and you're going to make sure that seam allowance is right on that 90-degree corner. Okay, and then you're going to have a 1/4-inch seam allowance of the white left over because we want that block inside to be intact. So we're just going to turn and cut each one of these out, and then we're going to prep the next, which is a color, and in this case I'm using a green. There we go. And that is done. Isn't that cute? So now we're going to take the next round and we are going to sew this to this, and then we're going to sew this to this. Now you're sitting there going, holy cow, it doesn't fill up this corner. We don't need it to fill up that corner. So, and I'll show you what I mean. So the first two I'm going to put on is this one, these opposites, and then I'll put on the next opposite. So let me just line this up. And in this case, it lines up to the size. Now let's switch over to the sewing machine and I'll show you how that is done. And I am going to iron this, but I'm not going to show you. I'm going to quickly iron. I'm going to sew on the two sides, and then I'm going to quickly iron the pieces. So, and I'll probably iron out to the green, but we'll see what happens when I iron. All right. I'm just going to get rid of this excess thread. All right, so now I'm going to switch back to, no, I'm going to leave it there. I'm just going to quickly iron this, and then I'll put on the other side and then switch back to the above. Okay, and then I'm going to take these two and sew them on. Now, actually, I am going to switch. Hold on. All right, so to put these on, I want to make sure that the center of the strip lines up with that. And it's kind of hard to eyeball that. So I'm just going to fold and do a little pleat and line it up as best I can. And that looks about right. I'm going to get this one done, and then I'm going to go back to the sewing machine and get this sewn. So that one I'm just going to leave it on the side, pleat it, and this one's lined up. And now I'm going to switch back to the sewing machine. All right. I'm just gonna, we don't have to sew the whole thing. And there we go. And of course we're taking a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I have my 1/4 inch foot on this, which makes it, I'm just gonna finger press that to get it out of the way, and then line up, you can't see that because the angle, and line up the fold line to the point of the square. All right, here we go. And then we're going to continue, and we're going to go and prep the next one. We're going to cut this down. Let me switch to the overhead. And here we are. So that's what it looks like before it's been trimmed. Let's get the trimming done. So this is round 2. So we're going to switch, and down at the bottom on this corner, okay, the last one we used this 45-degree angle. Now we're going to use this corner. And we are going to place our block like this, so the square is square to us and not on point. And then the first solid black square, I think you can see that, is round 2. So we're going to go and do round 2. Do not panic. It's not, this is not going to go all the way out. It doesn't have to go all the way out. Okay. And we're just going to cut that edge. We're going to line up the square again, and we're also going to line up this cut edge. And we're going to cut this side. We're going to turn it again, and we're going to cut this side, and then we're finished. Lining up this round 2 solid square and this raw edge to the ruler, so we can go ahead and cut that. And there's round 2 done. Now we're going to go and get round 3. Okay, round 3 is a white. I want to make sure my stars, and again I need to make sure that this strip lines up to that point. So we're going to put this one on here, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab another one and do the other side. And line it up. And then those are ready to sew. So we're going to switch over to the sewing, and we're going to get this done. Okay. So here we are. We're just going to sew this. And I'm holding that strip as best I can. I'm going to double check to make sure it's still lined up. And it feels, yeah, it's still lined up. I'm just going to, there we go. And I'm going to continue and sew down this edge. And I'm going to iron these because I need them out of my way. Okay, I'm just going to get rid of excess threads. And we're going to iron this, because I really need these strips out of the way. So we're going to go ahead and iron this, and then get the other 2 strips on, and then I'm going to show you how to do round 3. Now things change a little bit when we get to round 3, and I found out that I had made a mistake on my sample, that I had done it wrong. But that's okay, because I'm going to correct myself on this one. So I'm making sure that the center of that strip is lined up with this point here. So we're going to do this side again. We're going to there we go. And that's pretty good. So we're going to go to the sewing machine. Oops, it is. There we go. Sometimes I press those buttons on the switcher and they I don't press hard enough and they don't register that I've done the pressing, and they don't switch out the cameras or anything. So now that's done, and I'm just going to make sure this is lined up, and that looks pretty good. Now this is round 3. Things change, like I said, on the ruler. There is no square for the center square lined up in round 3. There is just a line, and I'm going to show it to you. So we're just going to iron this, sorry. Okay, so there is, I'm going to get rid of this. Where's my little tiny scissors? I'm getting anal here. Okay, so we now need to trim these down. And now we're going to switch to this. Now, I made a mistake here. If you see, I have a solid square point. It's supposed to be cut off. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to line up. Now there's a line here, and it says right on the ruler, 45-degree angle trim line, rounds 3, 5, 7, and 9. So what you want to do is line that line up to this seam, this ditch, or this seam allowance, this seam, okay, of each triangle as we move up. So we are going to line this up. I don't know if you can see that because the overhead lights. So this line here, I'm going to line it up to this. And like I said, it says right here, 45-degree angle trim line, rounds 3, 5, 7, and 9. So when you're doing rounds 3, 5, 7, and 9, and we're not going to 9, we're only going to 6. The rest is going to be done with the larger trim tool. So you need to line up this line on your 3, 5, 7, and 9. So we're going to go ahead and line that up. And I'm also going to check to make sure that the distance from this dotted line, let me just do that, this dotted line to that sewing line is pretty equal all the way down. And there's all these lines here that you can check that with. Okay, so, but the most important thing is to line up that 45-degree line on the rounds that I had mentioned. And then we're just going to go ahead and trim this down, lining that line up each and every time. Now, there's also this, the first round square, you might want to make sure that that line of that square is pretty straight onto that seam of the white. It's not going to line up perfectly there, so don't get your knickers in a knot about that. But as long as it's straight to the line, I think it will be just fine. And here we go. We're going to do it again. And once you've done one square, you're going to see that you'll be just automatic. You will know what you're doing, and it will all line up nicely. And there's my last cut for this. Oops. And there we go. So this is ready to get round 4. Sorry, I had to think there. So round 4, again, we want to make sure that we line up here. So I'm going to go ahead and finger press and lie that down so those line up. And I'm going to finger press that and line up this side, and then I'll go to the sewing machine with that. It's not perfect, but that's okay. There we go. So I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine and get that sewn. And once you know what you're doing, it will move quite quickly. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have only used this trim tool one time before this particular one. I do this on purpose because I want to show you how easy it is to figure out how to use these rulers. They're very, very clear. I made one mistake on my sample that I showed you, and now I've corrected it on this one. Now I'm going to open this up, and I'm just going to finger press it. Okay, and I'm going to get the next round ready. Should have done that before, but anyways. So again, I'm going to finger press, and I'm going to line it up there, and I'm going to finger press this side, this strip, and I'm going to line it up there we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this sewn. And I'll sew the other side too when I'm at it. And I'm just going to trim off the excess thread. Now you could, once you've done a test out, I always recommend to do one block in full to test yourself, to make sure that you understand the instructions and everything is fitting properly, because there could be mistakes. You never know. I mean, we're all human, and the people who write these patterns and the testers that test them could make a mistake and not even realize it, because let me just get to the overhead camera, and they can not even realize it, that there's an error, till somebody emails them and says, by the way, your pattern has an error. But this one is coming together just fine, because they've double test and triple test these rulers, and I'm taking my instructions off of the ruler. Now we need to do, this was round 4. So we have round 4. What we want is to make sure that this is square to us and not on point. There is a dotted line here that says round 4 right here. So we're going to line that square up onto the little square, and we're going to go ahead and trim. Yep, that looks good. We're going to go ahead and trim that, and then we're going to turn it one turn, a half turn, I think it is, and we're going to trim this. I'm making sure that dotted round 4 square is lined up with my purple square in the center of my block, and then we're going to turn it again, do the same thing again. I also make sure that this edge is lined up, because that's already cut. And there we go. That is ready for round 5. So round 5 is going to be our white, and we are going to go ahead and line up. And you're probably going to sit there and say, oh, this is too small. The strips are too small. No, they're not. At least I hope they're not. Like I said, I'm putting my whole faith in the instructions that came with the Creative Grid trim tool pineapple trim tool ruler, and I'm going to go ahead and sew these. And like I said, I mean, I put my faith in them. I've folded and lined up. I'm going to just take a few seconds to get the other ones ready to go, and I'm going to fold those, making sure that, because there's little stars on this white fabric, I want to make sure that they're in the I'm using the right side of the fabric, putting the right side down on the block in the correct order or in the correct direction. Now that is ready. I'm just going to quickly trim that, and I'm going to go and there we go. And I'm just going to get rid of that. And then I'm just going to finger press this open so it's out of my way. And I'm going to get this one ready to go. Now, I think I started to say that you could prep all your strips and lay them out for all your blocks and the colors and the sequence and everything, or you can do multiple, because I think we're supposed to do multiples in these colorways. So you could you're supposed to, I think, do 2 with the green in the center and the purple out, and then you can do another and then you do the green in the center and the purple, or the purple with the green center. And so you could do 4 at the same time, trim all those down, and then you could just chain sew all the strips before you do your trimming. So you would do multiple blocks at the same time, chain sewing all the strips on one side, and then turning it and doing all the strips on the other side, and then you take all your blocks, you do that by chain sewing them, and then you can go and trim off the and trim them down. Now I'm going to just give this a good iron. There we go. Now we are on round 5. So this was round 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it says here on this white line, it says the 45-degree angle trim line, round 3, 5, 7, and 9. So we're on round 5. We're going to line this line up to this seam, and then we're going to trim. Now I'm making sure that there's certain guidelines to help you make sure that you've made sure everything is square, and then you're just going to go in and trim this. Turn it once, line that line up again, trim it, turn it again, line it up, trim it, line it up, and do my last trim on this round. And there we go. So we have one more round to do, which is round 6. Yes, round 6. All right, so we are going to go ahead, and again, I'm going to find the center. Now I'm going to try to line it up to that. I'm going to eyeball it at this point. I'm not going to go and get, and that looks about, Just going to move it over a little bit. That looks about right. Okay, and then I'll do the other side and make sure that again it's lined up, and then I'm going to sew those two together. Let's head over to the sewing machine. So we're gonna, oh, and before I do that, I'll just quickly fold the other two strips and get them ready. Ah, didn't want me to fold it that way. Now I'm working with some batik fabrics and a white. I'll put the link to these fabrics in my down below in the comments or in the description. And there we go. And this got moved, so I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up again, and that looks good. So we'll go ahead and sew that down. There we go. And we're going to just finger press this open just to get them out of our way, and we will continue with the other side. And I'm lining up with the center point, making sure that there's equal amounts on either side. I find that when you take the time to do that, making sure that this is centered on the piece that you want to sew to, the block that you're sewing to, you end up getting a much more easier time of doing your trimming up. That's my take on it. I just find that lining up really does, making sure that it's centered on the block, the strip that you're sewing on, it really helps. Oops, a daisy. I like to hold my thread. There we go. And let's trim this last round up. This is our last round for this part of the block. And the next time will be, we'll be starting the outer edge with the purple. We're going to now switch. When we start on the next thing, we're going to be using the larger ruler, and we are going to all right, and we are going to continue with slightly wider strips and stuff, and there's a transition that I'm going to show you how it works and everything. Now I need just to figure out what round we are on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're on round 7. We're on round 7. So we're going to round 7 again. We're going to use that line here. And we're just going to make sure things are squared up. It's a little skewed, but the most important line is this. I'm not quite straight. I'm straight down here. I'm straight here, but not necessarily straight there. But I'm not going to worry about it because this is the most important line. And we're just going to trim that off. Okay, and we're going to turn it, and we're going to do it again. See, now it's perfect. I'm going to do it again. That's looking really, really good. and last cut, and then we are finished with these rounds. And there we go. So this one has come out a little different than this one. And the reason is because I made a mistake on this round. I did not line this up correctly. And by the time I figured it out, I was already on this outer round. I was already here. So I had already sewed this and cut, and then sewed this and started to prep for cutting. And that's when I discovered I had made a mistake here. But I have corrected that mistake here, and it looks way better, this one versus this one. So like I said, this was my first try. This purple one was my first try. This was my second try. And I discovered right away that I had made a mistake on this one. And I corrected it on this one. That's how easy these rulers are. So we're going to continue on the next day of tutorials. And I will take this to the next level. I will put all the links down below for the pattern, for the rulers, for the fabrics. And we'll see you on the next tutorial day. Take care. Happy sewing. Bye-bye.